Line, and it is caught by Skoranek. Ben Skoranek with a great catch, a contested catch all the way to the 40-yard line.
How about the throw?
34-33. Mayfield throws. That's caught. That's a first down. Here's Skoranek to the 22. Now Mayfield gets up there. He's got to spike it here. 2nd and 10. Mayfield to the end zone to Jefferson. Is that possible? Touchdown. This is impossible. They go 98 yards. That's good for 23. There is a new leading man in Hollywood.
The Fantasy Edge with Richard Savill and Dennis Sosick.
Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Edge. I am Richard Savill of FantasySixpack.net, and joining me shortly, Davis Peng, also of FantasySixpack.net. Dennis is a little under the weather, so he is giving it a miss this week. But we do have Dennis with us today, and he dropped off his Peng's picks. So we're still going to have some fun. We're going to listen to his Peng's picks since he went through the toil of putting them together. But here live today, Davis Peng, and we got to invite Davis with his intro. Davis.
Hey, guys. All right. Get to be in another week. Stoked.
Yeah.
I was not expecting to be on this fast again, but I'm always down for it, as you guys know.
That's cool. We're into fantasy playoff time now. This is a fantasy playoff start this week, and it didn't go too good for me. I don't think I'm going to be any. I don't enter a lot of leagues now because I just can't deal with leagues and writing and all other stuff in life going on that But how's it going for you? Are you
I have a couple leagues I'm in. I help a couple other people. And a lot of our games come down to tonight's game. And I'm just sweating. Because it's one thing for me to lose. It's another for me to help somebody and it be this tight. I'm always like, ugh, that's rough. But on the good note, the guys that were in are tight. We're always a top 4 scoring team. We just happen to have bad luck. You can't do anything when you face, Josh Jacobs on his 50-point game, or there's nothing you can do when you're facing Joe Mixon on his 5 touchdown game.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, it seems like it's who pleases the fantasy gods the most. If you're in good with the fantasy gods, you're going to be okay. If not, well, not so good. But anyway, we've got a lot to look at.
Show today is crowded, so we must move quick.
Yes, we must. We got to move quick. We got a lot of news to get through, and plus the waivers. But this will be the last week they're going to be doing waivers. So you're on your own because there's so few people, but we're going to be starting to do a little bit of, and you'll probably be doing it too. We'll give you a card there, Davis, to put in your picks. When we get the show, you'll have to pick some players of some sort of in certain categories. Dennis usually works all that stuff out, but we'll send you along sort of a ballot so that you can join in with the show that way. Anyways, so let's start off with the latest news. Now, I'm not completely up to date with the news because I'm trying to avoid the score of the game because I want to watch it in its entirety later on. So I might not be up to date with the latest news, and I don't want to check Roto World, or what was World Sports Edge now. But T.Y. Hilton is going to join the Cowboys, and the Cowboys they've kind of they're not going to go with the OBJ idea, so they're going to go with T.Y. Hilton. And I don't know, Davis, what is it with the Cowboys? Is this move really necessary? Is what I ask myself.
I'm going to say yes, it is. If you are looking to do certain things, right? If you're looking to bring a veteran presence, right, with a guy that's a pretty good locker room guy, everyone's talked very highly of T.Y. Hilton. And if you need a speedster. So if you really look at this Cowboys team, they lack a speedster. They don't have a guy that can run the 9 route and just happen to take off. You know, the Deshaun Jackson type of guy. James Washington was supposed to be that guy, but I don't think he's ever seen the field in like 2 years now at this point.
No, that's right. He's kind of the forgotten man in fantasy, isn't he?
Yeah, you know, so maybe they bring T.Y. Hilton along to like kind of get Michael Gallup a little bit more of a veteran presence, you know, because CeeDee Lamb is a young guy. And maybe Jalen Tolbert, you know, can learn a little bit. And then you need a guy that can have the speed. Hilton, last I checked, was still a pretty fast player, just very not durable. But all they need him for is the next few weeks. So, you know, he's a veteran too, so he can pick a playbook pretty quickly.
Do you know how old he is?
Yeah.
He's over 30, right? It's
like 33 now.
33.
And he's been hurt quite a bit, so he's probably got some really bad mileage.
Yeah.
I don't think this is as bad as people make it out to be. This is no different when Deshaun Jackson joined the Ravens, and he kind of made a minor impact recently too.
That's true. There's no arguing that.
He's not on the plane getting kicked off like OBJ is. So I'll take that. I'll take that all day.
Yeah, not fantasy relevant though.
No, not at all. It might help Dak. Like, you might get a week where T.Y. Hilton puts up like a 40-yard touchdown out of the blue because, you know, they weren't paying attention to T.Y. Hilton. And guess what? It helps you if you have Dak.
People don't throw darts in the playoffs, though.
Oh, no, yeah, you're not running him, but you're running more Dak. I think if you're a Dak manager, you're happier because it's no longer just 2 guys and a tight end, right? It's something a little bit extra, possibly.
Yeah, right.
Injury.
Oh, yeah, we got DJ Moore day-to-day with a knee sprain. That, you'll be missing him in his... somebody's got a bad cough, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, that's the wife once again.
Wish her all the best, you know.
Yeah, she's we have the flu area has been coming across San Francisco pretty bad. I just got off it a couple weeks ago myself.
I see. Anyway, let's see. DJ Moore, day-to-day with a knee sprain now. He's kind of a cog that you kind of miss in the fantasy playoffs if you need him. But he's kind of down to the flex WR3, third wide receiver or flex. I think that's where he's at right now. What do you think about him for next year, though?
I'm okay with him. The talent's there. You know, no ACL sprain, tough player. You have to love him, right? Like, he's gonna fall to like the 6th round type of thing. You know, people are gonna feel like they got burnt, and he's gonna be a value.
Oh yeah,
he's obviously a top 22 talent in the league.
Yeah,
give that to me. Give it to me every year.
Yeah, I still think a lot of people got. Of course, we have to see what the off-season moves are going to look like, what the Panthers are going to do. I mean, we got a new coach coming in and all this sort of thing. So
new coach, probably a new quarterback. Who knows? But
yeah,
you have to like DJ Moore. You can't deny that he is a good talent in the NFL. And I have a feeling he's going to be like DK Metcalf, where people kind of threw him away. And then look at Metcalf right now.
Yeah, no argument from me on that. DK Metcalf looking great, and not only that, just looking at the Panthers' chances here. The Panthers have a 78% chance of not making the playoffs. So they're back. so they got a 22% chance of making it. So let's see, but they'll have to win the division to do that. And the Buccaneers, I mean, they're jostling, so there's a chance. A couple of players on the I guess I got to do this signal here because we got a couple of Bengals that are injured. T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd were T. Higgins hamstring, and Tyler Boyd is going to miss a couple of weeks with a dislocated finger. Those are heavy studs. Well, more so T. Higgins. You're not going to have them in the playoffs, or not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. I think I touched on a little bit on the Panks Pick segment a little bit here. I'm scared with Higgins.
Why?
Zach Taylor is doing something weird over there that I would say annoys not only fans but fantasy managers. Like, I couldn't imagine being like, oh, cool, you know, I'm coming to a game, I'm going to watch T. Higgins, you know, and then you don't see him. You know, you spend good money to see your team, and then you don't get to see it. And that sucks. I feel like that's unfair.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a skill set of chase that Higgins has that Chase doesn't quite. There are different kind of skill sets with these players, but T. Higgins seems to be the more, well, they both can be explosive, yes, but T. Higgins has he's got a little bit more pizzazz than Chase does, I think.
Yeah, I like, obviously Chase is the better talent, but I think Higgins has better concentration. It seems like when it comes to playing the 50-50 ball, I would need to watch a little bit more, but it definitely is going to hamper this Joe Burrow a lot. Not having a elite level receiver, or at least a wide receiver 1B, on to help him out.
Still, it kind of sucks. These are Bengals, and anything on the Bengals offense is kind of important. And so, I mean, Hayden Hurst, I don't know his status. So you don't know who to pick up. I mean, there was what was the guy's name who scored the touchdown, number 16? What was his name again? Gee, forgot it already. Irwin, was it? I think his name was Irwin. Was it?
Say it again?
Irwin was
that random touchdown.
Yeah.
That guy was so random. I remember watching that going, huh. And I was just confused. I was just completely confused.
I'm mentioning his name because I'm just quickly looking at the waiver ranks that we have, and I don't see his name on the list.
I mean, do you expect to, though? I mean...
Well, if you're going to have these two wide receivers out, right?
I guess that's true. I guess everyone just expects T. Higgins to come back. I think that's the problem.
I think that is, yeah.
He was technically on the team this coming Sunday. Or last Saturday, so they just think it gets better. So maybe that's why he's not on the list.
Yeah. Well, I have to see where he stands. I really don't know how this is another thing too.
Injury.
Yeah, Marcus Mariota is on the injury reserve list. Now, the Falcons were off in week 14, but they're putting Marcus Mariota on injured reserve. Obviously, the Falcons are sort of throwing in the towel and want to see what they've gotten. Desmond Ridder, perhaps?
Yeah. I think Mariota could play. But as you said, I think they're just throwing in the towel. They're just like, hey, this didn't work. Let's go first round pick, right? Like, here we go.
Yeah, Mariota's he's no stranger to being a backup. So he's a serviceable backup, and they could just go with Ridder from. But I'm actually interested to see what Ridder can do. I mean, I always like to see what the young guys can do. Like what we saw with Brock Purdy. So. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah,
injury.
Dameon Pierce, uncertain for week 15. A lot of people have him, but Houston, although they played well and he scored a touchdown on the weekend, his status is uncertain for week 15. It's these little holes in your fantasy playoffs that you just don't need, and. No. And I'm actually Rex Burkhead is the next man up. Are we running to get him?
I don't know what you can do here. I mean, we just saw what happened last week with Travis Homer. Sometimes you don't want it. You don't even vacated targets, vacated touches. It doesn't mean the same when you go from Derrick Henry to someone you have no idea the name of that player. And I feel like this is kind of one of those situations where it's Dameon Pierce to Burkhead, who may get some receiving, so that's nice. But I feel like I would still feel terrible. I'm not excited about this.
No, you mentioned Travis Homer there. He didn't. It's kind of good because I've always kind of wanted to see what Travis Homer can do if he kind of owns the backfield. And
now we know.
Now we know.
He's been in the league for a minute too. I always forget he exists until they bring him up again. And I'm always like, oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Injury.
Mike White, day to day with rib injury. Kind of important if you're in a 2 QB league and you picked him up, and now you got to drop him and try and scramble to get somebody.
I'd even argue he's important in the Q1 QB league. I mean, you got to think
that's a fair comment.
He threw the ball 37 times while missing plays last week. That means he could have threw the ball 40-something times.
That's true.
Had a little bit of fantasy relevancy against a stout defense. I actually thought that he would have scored a little bit more. I thought both of these teams would score a little bit more. But he got there. He showed his toughness, and I feel better about him than I do about guys like Mac Jones or Ryan Tannehill like other guys that are actually starting, I think it was nice to have Mike White, especially now that we lost like Lamar Jackson. We lost, like who else is out, so it's been a good chunk of players that are gone. And I think Mike White filled that need, right? So
yeah,
players start getting shut down.
He did. And, he's a gamer. You gotta like the gamer quarterbacks, right? And we'll be talking about a gamer quarterback in a few minutes. But this guy is not a gamer. Well, he was, I guess, at one time. Carson Wentz, he's been activated by the Commanders. I
don't know what that means.
I think what that means is that I'm not sure how they feel about Heineke for the playoffs. I think that means, I don't think we've ever seen Carson Wentz in a playoff game. You know that?
It's been a minute. We haven't seen him since the Eagles days.
Yeah, but he didn't even get into the playoffs, and it was Foles that took over in the Super Bowl season.
Yeah, but we saw him the year after, and I think the year after that. I think Wentz got injured in a playoff game against Seattle.
Did he? All right. So I don't know whether they're gonna give Wentz a chance. I really don't know the leash situation with Heineke. Apparently, it's quite a long leash, as far as I knew.
I think if Wentz is activated, he's activated because he's the best backup they have.
Yeah.
I don't think he's activated to take the role. I think if he takes this job, it demoralizes a lot of the team members that have been winning with Heineke, right? Carson Wentz has been good for the first 3 weeks of fantasy. I'm a big Wentz truther. I will admit it. I love him in best ball. I love him in 2 QB leagues. He's super fun to have, but he wasn't good, right? Fantasy numbers were cool, but as a player, he was losing them games badly. So I think he's just the backup.
Yeah. Guy who's not a backup, but I'm not going to, this isn't really an injury. He's just getting an MRI check for an oblique injury. Brock Purdy, who came out when San Francisco, they creamed the Buccaneers on the weekend. And probably a big up for this rookie. The last quarterback taken in the draft, I do believe, Brock Purdy. And he beats Tom Brady. Can you imagine, that's, you beat the legend. You beat the legend. Let's get he'll never forget that. He'll never forget that game. And, well.
I mean, Purdy said it himself. He gets to play against the guy that's been in the league longer than he's been alive.
Yeah, I know.
Or he's been playing football or something longer than he's been alive. That's what the quote was. He's been playing football longer than the man's been alive. And that's wow.
Yeah, that is something. When you think about it, it really is. It's something else.
I like Purdy, by the way. And
I do. I think he's good. I think I had him in Scott Fish, and I could have started him.
I would have. I love starting him in his situation. There's a lot of misdirection with the 49ers that just set people up for success. And I think it speaks to the point that maybe Jimmy G is not as good as we think, that Purdy can walk in and run this offense. Yeah,
it just shows you that all it takes is a game manager quarterback. But I think he's better than just a game manager quarterback, Brock Purdy.
I agree. I remember reading a camp report about Purdy. Something that emerged that people were so certain that he was going to be the cemented backup and could run the offense if things went down. It just got obviously overlooked because you're all cared about Trey Lance, Jimmy G. Lo and behold, it held true. This guy came in and is running the offense. They said he's playing better than what you expect a Mr. Irrelevant. You can't.
No. Yeah, it's interesting. Moving right along. Now we talked about Tyler Boyd. I wanted to talk about this with you. Go over with this situation. Cam Jordan. This is kind of unfinished business from week 13. Do you remember the play where the Saints were, I believe it was, the Buccaneers were playing the Saints in week 13, and Cam Jordan they were near the goal line. It was goal to goal situation, and Buccaneers were in hurry up, and Cam Jordan just fell on the turf, feigning an injury. It seemed like.
Yes.
Now the league has levied $550,000. $500,000 for an allegedly fake Cam Jordan injury in the fourth quarter on Monday night. The Saints are appealing it. I don't know the status of it at the moment, but it was a topic of discussion with the insiders about this. And I just kind of wanted to know what your thoughts are. And apparently, there's a lot of we don't hear about it a lot, but a lot of teams are getting dinged with this fine that we don't really necessarily hear about, or it's seen after the game. They look at the thing, and and I don't know how much of a problem this is, but I mean, and I don't know, the fantasy relevance of it is nebulous at best, I guess. But
I remember seeing this on a Bengals thing where it was like very, very obvious before. Yeah, it doesn't get called too often, and the cameras don't pan them too well, so you can never really tell. Mm-hmm. I don't know how serious this is in the league, how much of an issue it is. I'm sure it probably is if they're levying this much money.
Yeah.
That they're probably like making an example of the Saints.
They don't want players faking injuries. They don't want it to turn it.
Matters. I don't think it matters at all.
You see it in soccer all the time, and I can't stand. It's one thing I hate about soccer in this World Cup.
You see it in basketball.
And basketball, yeah.
Basketball's huge about it, you know. I think what you have to look at when it comes to this is, does it affect games, right? And I think you're going to still see this occurring. If I was
yeah, but if a team is in hurry up and you're trying to stop the clock, right? You're trying to get the right defense out there, and you're not ready for this hurry up offense, you know, that's coming at you. And then you fake an injury just to buy some time without a timeout, or I think they still get charged a timeout if a player goes down.
You get charged a timeout or a runoff time.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, I don't think you can do anything, right? It's one of those damn if you do, damn if you don't situations. Like, what are they going to say? Like, you're faking it? Because if it ends up being a serious injury, the league looks dumb. And I think owners don't care. If the owner's going to get penalized $100K for it and they get a win, who cares? Right?
Yeah, I know, but I think they're trying to get. I think they're just trying to get the bullshit out of the league.
Yeah,
which is good, and I like that.
It's never going to stop it. I don't think the money matters. Right? Like, I think the only way to ever prevent this is if you started costing draft picks, right? Because if I would spend $300, if I was an owner, I spend millions and millions on players that get hurt all the time. I don't mind getting fined $100K, $200K if it gives me an edge to win a game.
Yeah, I suppose. But if you're out of timeouts and the player just, fakes an injury, it's not good. I mean, because they gotta run out the guys, and all this thing. It gives you time, and the defensive coordinator can make adjustments for what he's seeing the, because the offense lines up, and then you kind of got a snapshot right there of what they're doing. I mean, these guys.
It's definitely problematic to the game itself and integrity. But to me, it's one of those, nothing you can realistically do about it. Yeah. It's just one of those, like, you have to have a safety precaution, and there's nothing you can do until something gets super automated, right? Where you can, like some AI level stuff that doesn't exist yet in the future. So it's just part of the game for now.
This is the kind of thing that, because I like reading what the insiders, Rap Sheet, when they're talking with each other, like Tom Pelissero and Rap Sheet, and when they get talking with each other, this is the kind of things they talk about. It's interesting. So I was just kind of peering into their conversation about it, and they were kind of making it public, which is kind of cool. So, but these are the kinds of things they talk about. It's interesting, and it's interesting to us, and it does, like I say, from a fantasy perspective, it's a bit, it's on the outside a bit. But
it might cost a few yards on a touchdown in the future. I mean, right? If someone gets to have a game plan against you, gets more time to play against you, it definitely is going to hurt your offense. So I guess, that would suck.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that you can't do anything about. So I'm not going to sweat it. I think trying to focus on that until you have a solution is pointless.
Yeah. One last thing before we get into the Fantasy Pros Waiver Rankings. At the top of the show, we heard an announcer clip of Al Michaels calling the game last Thursday night. Baker Mayfield. What do you make of it?
I will say this straightforward. I'm not a Baker guy. Never been. This doesn't change my opinion on being a Baker guy, but I will tell you now that what he did was very impressive. Very, very impressive, and kudos to him. it was fun football. That was probably the most fun I think I've had on a Thursday football in a while. And it only came in the last 2 minutes, right? Like how many Thursday games have we watched that were just painful, right? There was like a total of 2 good games this year. Mm-hmm. And the Rams and Raiders was not a good game, but at least the last 2 minutes was like, wow. Like this was actually kind of worth watching.
Yeah, from a fantasy perspective, okay, he's got a fresh start, but there's still these teams that there's still the problem that we know with the Panthers, and the Panthers, they let him go quite easily. I don't know, but he's got a fresh start. He gets a fresh start, but we can't ignore what he's done in the past. That's all I can say.
I mean, think about it like this. He went from the Browns, and I know we can make fun of the Browns for the past 12 years because they were the past 20 years, but the Browns in the last 2 to 3 years have had a great team, right? Great offensive line and a top 2 running back, right? And rushing, a solid defense. And like Baker took them to the playoffs once and just floundered the other X amount of years, goes to a worse team, flounders, and now he's going to a team that's actually worse than his last worst team. The only difference is the coaching's better. On paper, that roster is bad. That offensive line was getting shredded like paper. Like, I don't know how I would... the Rams are kind of done, and Baker gets a one shot to kind of show that he might be worthy to be in the league.
I think it says a lot more about the Raiders that game.
Raiders are so bad.
The Raiders gifted a lot of penalties. Like there was that 9-yard sack that was negated. He slaps was it Tillerson or whatever his name is?
Slapped the ball out of his hands.
Slapped the ball out of his hands, yeah. And that's obvious taunting, right? Yeah. Unsportsmanlike, and then they get the 15 yards, and then he throws to Skoranek that big long pass, which was fantastic. I mean, all the passes in that drive were just like, I couldn't believe I'm seeing Baker Mayfield. Just like the announcers we heard, Herbstreit and Michaels talking about it. It was like, they were blown away. And like you say, it was one of the more enjoyable Thursday night games. We've got another enjoyable Thursday night game coming up, actually. Maybe Seahawks and 49ers. That's always fun. But this game, I didn't expect much from it, and then they're gonna put when they put Baker out there. I'm putting Baker out there. Okay, how long has he been with the team? I'm starting to think like, didn't he just come to the team like 5 minutes ago? And sure enough, they were right, and it was actually only 2 days, and I don't know how I don't know. It was just something, magical day for Baker Mayfield. As for fantasy, my take on the fantasy front. It's unfortunately, it's got to be wait and see. He's going to play the Packers. He's going to start against the Packers, and we'll see how he does at Lambeau Field. That'll be the real test. Then, okay, we'll see how he does now. Because now he's got the playbook behind him fully. He's ready to go. This is the proper test, I feel.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take to look at it that way. I am just kind of done with Baker. I will say, though, that Van Jefferson and Skondrick, and I know you guys called this weeks ago about him. You guys called it one of my Pink's picks, I believe. Yeah. He's someone that's probably worth picking up.
Yeah.
And I think this holds true. Like, you should sit there, look at him, and say, these guys are fantasy relevant as, possible bench stashes until further notice.
I think Ben Skoronek's playable. If Baker can keep up this is the problem that you just don't know. Is Baker going to keep this up? Is he going to be, because, like, look at it. I mean, he played most of the games. I think Wolford played the first series, and then that was it. And then the Raiders, after the first half, I don't know what happened. They just decided they took their foot off the gases, which they've been doing throughout the season. I don't know what I think that says a lot more about the coaching. I think there's,
Yeah. I mean, I just said before, Kyle Shanahan had a good coach, and he makes Brock Purdy look good. Maybe Sean McVay finds a way, because it wasn't like the Panthers' coaching was good. And the Browns coaching, it was a little questionable for a few years.
Yeah.
So let's see. Maybe he revives his career a little bit.
Yeah, I'm still wait and see. I'm still wait and see. I think everybody is, but am I optimistic? Now that's the question. I'd like to. You know what? I'd like to be optimistic. I really would. I'd really like to see. I mean, you want a good quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Stafford's still the guy until further notice. So I don't know if Baker can turn it into a QB competition. If he can, if he makes a quarterback controversy out of this, I'd be very interested.
I think that's fair. I think you can argue the fact that he's going to make it a QB competition. I don't know if Stafford ever comes back. So you could see it. You could see a year of, camp talk with Baker Mayfield next year.
Oh, yeah.
Whoever the Rams end up with.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. You're going to see. Yeah, you have it right there. Right. We've got...
Show today is crowded, so we must move quick.
Yeah, we got to get on with the... Speaking of quarterbacks, let's start with our quarterbacks that are on the waiver wire for week 15, first week of the playoffs. You need a quarterback, and the Fantasy Pros experts have got Mike White at number 1. And I know last week you were quite high on Mike White, so you completely agree with that.
I'm still for it. He didn't throw any touchdowns. That sucks. But he played. He played a pretty good game overall. I still think he's the guy. I mean, give or take what's left on this list, there's only one person I rank higher than Mike White.
Brock Purdy.
And that would be Brock Purdy.
Yeah, me too. I would put Brock Purdy as the number 1 guy you should go for. I don't know why Fantasy Pros have him at QB3. They got Mac Jones at number 2. Come on, man. Playing tonight, I don't want to know what's going on with that, but Mac Jones might be on there because the Fantasy Pros, it comes out on Monday.
Starting quarterback. That's it. That's all they care about. He's a starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's not enough. Mac Jones has thrown, 7 touchdowns this year? 10?
Yeah.
He hasn't thrown anything this season that I can think of. I can't imagine thinking he's someone that's going to be on my fantasy roster.
No, I don't see him either. Like you mentioned the rest of this list. I mean, Russell Wilson, I didn't have him in the injury list. He's in the CP right now in the Comp Pro.
I was correct, by the way. It's 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions with their average QB rating of 87. I know he didn't play his whole season, but 7 for 7 is not too good. Even in a 4-game span, that's pretty bad.
What's this for?
This is Mac Jones. This is Mac Jones' touchdowns interceptions on the season. 7 and 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Brock Purdy's about to throw more touchdowns, and he just started.
Yeah. Yeah. And, they had Bailey Zappi in there for 5 minutes, and they look almost the same. They're the same quarterback, just different names on the backs of their jersey.
It has not been good for Mac Jones. Like I said, I think they just put him there because he's a starter. His weapons aren't good outside of Ramondre Stevenson. Wide receivers are a toss-up every week. I don't feel comfortable with Mac Jones.
Yeah. There's nobody else on this list that really interests me. Maybe Taylor Heineke. You can grab him if you don't get any of the other guys. Desmond Ridder, that's kind of risky. And Jeff Driscoll, definite no, I think.
Yeah, sure.
But any interest in Matt Ryan?
No, not at all.
Yeah,
I crapped on Michael Pittman a lot, and it's not has to do with Pittman mostly, but it doesn't have much to do with Pittman, but it has everything to do with our buddy here, Matty Ice, who, if you're playing in a completions league, Matt Ryan's your guy. If you're playing in an actual normal fantasy league, same issue. No touchdowns. I think he's throwing the equivalent of interceptions to touchdowns this season. It's less than 20. It's probably, I think it's like 13 and 13 or something. We can't. There's no mobility there. He's run a little bit more, which is kind of interesting, but it's not good.
No. Yeah, I don't know if he's run Matt Ryan.
I saw him do a 15-yard rushing this year, and that's the most he's ever done. In a single one, I think, recently.
Yeah, he's definitely, he's from the old school. Speaking of former runner, I mean, Russell Wilson, of course, is in the concussion protocol, and he, Russell Wilson, I think the fans aren't happy with him there. He's not happy. I don't think he's going to be that happy there. Things have gone, I don't know, it's just gone really, I mean, you kind of figured a bit of a downgrade going to Denver maybe, but this much of a downgrade? They gave away the farm to get him, so they're kind of stuck with him, really.
We have to see what they do with Nathaniel Hackett. Hackett he's not a good coach.
No.
He doesn't know how to manage clock, which I don't understand how you can hire a coach that doesn't know how to manage clock. I feel like that should just be the bar. That's the equivalent of learning how to read. Right?
Yeah.
As a coach, you should know how to manage clock. So, I don't like the play calling. I don't think he has his locker room situation. I don't think Wilson should be this low.
No.
But at the same time, do we care? You know what I mean? Like, at least Wilson threw some touchdowns this week, but I think this is the first touchdowns he's thrown in a while.
Yeah, it's been spotty. I mean, he's had a couple of games with the Raiders where he wasn't too bad. A game with the Raiders.
The last three quarterbacks we talked about, Mac Jones, Matt Ryan, and Wilson, I want to say they're equal or to their touchdowns on INTs right now.
Yeah.
I'm 7 for 7 for Jones. Matt Ryan was 13 for 13, as I remembered. I think Russell Wilson's probably like 11 and 8. Like 11 TDs on the season. That's worse than some guys are catching touchdowns or rushing touchdowns. So it's really bad right now.
Yes.
I would actually take the guys after Russell Wilson, but I would probably rank Matt Ryan in a little bit lower than Wilson.
So that's the quarterbacks. Let's move on. A very short list of running backs to pick up.
We're not going to talk about the other guys? We have 2 other guys on the list. 4 guys.
Okay. You want to talk about Tannehill?
A little bit.
He's always on. He's on here every week, though.
But
I see his name. Well, you want to talk about Ritter? I don't know much about Ritter. I saw him a little bit in the preseason, but I don't really know much about him. I mean,
so Ritter can run the ball, but I was going to say Tannehill has at least thrown 13 touchdowns. He threw 2 this last week.
I know, but we talked about
something.
this last week, Davis. We talked about this last week that he's on they're the second lowest passing offense in next to the Bears. They're the next lowest passing offense in the league.
Well,
I can't understand why this rush to get Chigo Okonkwo.
Does Heineke at least move the needle for you? Is Heineke at least worthy more than Matt Ryan?
Taylor Heineke, for me, he's good in the sense that he doesn't harm Dotson or McLaurin.
Mm-hmm. All right, I was just curious on that. If you rank them higher right now than those guys,
I don't rank him high. I like him for fantasy because he doesn't harm the skill players. The skill players do fine with him in there. Whereas with we talked about Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz can harm your.
That's so sad but true.
He can harm your skill players, whereas Heineke doesn't. He does no harm. So that's.
I respect it, my friend. All right, we can move on now.
Okay, let's move on. Yeah, it's a very short list for running backs this week. I think we could probably even add a few that they haven't. I'm surprised that there's only 7 running backs on the waiver rankings list from the Fantasy Pros this week. So we could probably talk about them all and have time to spare.
I actually talk a little bit about one of my Peng's picks, but I will say for Gus Edwards, he's exactly where he needs to be. I don't like what I saw from J.K. Dobbins last week. I know, big run, but he slowed down randomly, and they just never used him again. So that's scary to me. So I think Gus Edwards is exactly where he needs to be.
I think they were doing better. I think they were doing better with Drake,
Maybe. But Dobbins had, I think, 65 yards on 8 touches, 8 rushing attempts. But
that pass catching element with Drake, and Drake can run. He can't run as good. I think Edwards and Drake make a far better tandem.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think if Dobbins was healthy, I think this would be a different conversation. But I don't think the guy is. I think he might be hurt again.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what the Ravens do. They're kind of an interesting situation now with Huntley, and Huntley's hurt too. That was something else I didn't put on the injury. So he's questionable, isn't he? But he came back in and played, I guess. Or no, he didn't. He didn't come back and play. He stayed out. What's his issue? What's his issue? There was some issue with Huntley now.
I don't know. I think he just took an injury. I don't know what it was though.
Yeah, I don't see why Travis Homer's on this list. They got to get, Walker. They need Walker back.
Yeah. They need anybody back. This is not the play here. Homer's not the guy. I think
Homer's
Hubbard's
not the guy.
Better.
They should have put Jones in more. But I don't know. Carroll had different ideas, and they should have put Tony Jones in there. He said Jones is like a bowling ball, though. So I don't know if it would have made it
either, though.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have made any difference. They could have tried it though.
So this just gave me a random callback, though. So Tony Jones was pretty bad, and I remember when they took Abram Smith, the highest paid unrestricted free agent rookie from the draft. They paid him. They paid him the most money, guaranteed money. And he was originally supposed to usurp Tony Jones. And then they cut him. He was like he was from Baylor. It was like a huge rushing guy.
Right.
And they cut him and they let Tony Jones stay. And now Tony Jones is cut, and he's on Seattle. And I find it funny that Seattle is having a hard running back issue right now.
Yeah, they usually got everybody on their team.
Yeah, Seattle and the Saints have terrible running back situations. And I think back about Abram Smith, who's now I think on the XFL as the number 1 overall pick. And I'm like, this guy could have actually been on these teams. And now he can't because he's a part of the XFL.
Yeah. Funny, isn't it?
It's just long story short. Travis Homer, Tony Jones, I want nothing to do with Seattle. Like
no, you can't. You just can't go there right now at the moment. You've got to have Walker, and that is that.
Oh yeah, that's it. It's just Walker.
Yep.
And that's a credit to Walker, not credit to how the offensive line there. That offensive line cannot open gaps at the run.
Chuba Hubbard. He actually made some noise. I'm just going to get his numbers up. He played a lot in tandem with Dante Foreman. So I'm just going to take a look at his numbers.
Catching too.
Yes. So I was quite impressed with Chuba Hubbard. I was just going to take a look and see what his stats were for week 14. It is 14 carries, 74 yards, and 25 receiving yards. So he nearly 99 yards from scrimmage. That's pretty good. 17 fantasy points.
1 touchdown. So he got you... and 3 catches. So that's what, 18.9 points from Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah.
In full PPR.
9 RB finish, but, yes, he finishes RB 9, pending tonight's game, of course. But
he got
previous games, RB 42, RB 42, RB 62, RB 18, not bad. RB 58, I mean, this could be just, one and done sort of thing, you know?
I don't think so.
No?
I think he has the pass catching role there, and I think he also has the change of pace there.
Oh yeah, I mean Foreman's always going to be.
There is value, but you're not starting him unless matchup dependent or you hear some bad news about Foreman. But I think we need a guy that can get you like 15 touches or at least 12 to 15 a week. I think Hubbard might be able to do that.
Wow, they went ground heavy against the Seahawks.
They can't throw the ball at Sam Darnold.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, think of this is basically another form of the Falcons. Let's run the ball a lot.
They did. They were running the ball because Foreman got 21 carries, and he also got 74 yards on the ground. He only got 1 receiving yard, but he doesn't catch the ball too much. He's kind of like Henry, you know, in a way. He's kind of built the same way.
Yeah. So I would say that's the way to look at it. I don't think there's another way to look at the situation. This is basically just another headbutting team.
Yeah. So they ran the ball. The Seahawks just could not stop the run, and that doesn't give you much hope for them next Thursday night, does it? If they've got Christian McCaffrey to deal with, and if they think Hubbard and Foreman are tough, just wait till they get a load of Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey.
CMC.
You know, like those guys. Those guys are gonna, you know what they're gonna do against Seattle? They're gonna run that ball up, and so it'll be. I don't know. Seattle might. Pete Carroll's pretty good about fixing things, so who knows? Well, we'll see. Let's move along. I got Tyler Algier. He's a name I haven't seen on the waiver ranks lately.
I think he had a couple touches this week that weren't terrible.
But
Not
he did
this week. I think
the week before.
Last week that weren't terrible. I think he's still splitting. He's technically running the ball more than Cordero Patterson is, I think, right now. But him and Huntley are sharing. Caleb Huntley, him and Patterson are kind of sharing a bit. I don't think he should be. I think he should be higher than Homer.
Yes. I think a lot of these guys should be higher than Homer. I mean, even Damian Harris. Damian Harris is, I think he's still questionable, isn't
he? He's due to miss today's game, as I remember, because we got the out news as the game about to start.
Right.
And then, but here's the thing with Harris is if he finds a way to get healthy, if he finds a way to play, you might see him in week 16, 7, maybe even 15 if we're lucky. I think he's worth an ad because you know when he's on the field, he has a shot at a touchdown.
Oh yeah,
even behind Ramondre.
He's kind of in the dart throw territory because of Stevenson, you know. So,
yeah, but you know he has a shot at it, right?
You know he has a shot. Yes. If you're facing injuries and things, I mean, we don't know what. I mean, if you've got Walker sitting in IR, you're going to have to start somebody. But Harris out this week, so we'll see what the news is about him to see whether he's a good pickup or not. Maybe you should pick him up and just.
I would definitely add him. He's on your waiver, I'd add him because the Patriots run the ball the most. They have a great run blocking offensive line.
Yeah.
And that's how they've been winning. They've been shoving 2 running backs down to people's throats. And David Harris, even when he came back from his last injury, still finished with a touchdown like 70 yards.
Yeah. I'm surprised that he's under 50% owned.
Yeah.
Because that's
he's been missing so many games. It happens.
Yeah, I suppose. A guy I like here too, though, is Amir White. I like him for the Las Vegas. We don't know the status. I mean, Jacobs I think he was a little bit hurt.
He's questionable again, but we saw this the same last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to take it with a grain of salt. Zamir White hasn't touched the ball all season.
I know, but they might want to, now that the Raiders have kind of lost their playoff chances now.
I still don't see it. I think that,
why do you think they'll run out a banged up Josh Jacobs when the Raiders have got nothing to play for?
Next year. They don't have his extension next year. And at the end of the day, I think what they're trying to do is if he leaves and he gets picked up, I think his draft capital, I think comes back because they get a pick from it. Because he would leave the team, they would get a pick. And then to top it off, Josh McDaniels needs to prove that he has a job. So if he doesn't pull more wins, this could be rough for him.
Yeah, that's the other factor, I guess.
Yeah, and Josh Jacobs.
Got to factor. But still, you've got to pick up Zamir White on the possibility that they shelf Jacobs.
Yeah, I mean, you always can. I just don't know. And I also, at the same time, I feel like they use the guy so little, I just doesn't give me much faith in him. I think if this was more of a Zeke to Tony Pollard or Cordell Patterson to a Tyler Algier kind of situation, I would feel more confident. But they made the guy run with like a broken hand basically last week, and they were like, all right, we're going to keep using you instead of Zamir White. It's healthy when the game's on the line.
Well, we shall see, but I still think Zamir White's not a bad pickup on the possibility that they shelf.
Yeah, definitely not the worst thing in the world.
Let's see. Okay. Hey, it's time for Peng's Picks. We got to get on with the Peng's Picks. Here we go.
Peng's Picks with Davis Peng.
Hey everybody, this is Davis Peng, writer for Fantasy Six Pack, and this is my Peng's Picks take for Week 15. First things first, I want to talk about some of the elephants in the room. Let's talk about Jerick McKinnon, Evan Ingram, Richie James, Jerry Jeudy. These guys that just had monster weeks. Kind of out of the blue when you really think about it. So first off, let's go with Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon is the RB2 for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's pretty blatant. CEH is not utilized on this team. Isaiah Pacheco is the first guy up, but he's not the pass catcher. They like McKinnon. They trust him. They use him in all sorts of sets on this team. He's always been the PPR guy. I think if he's on your roster, you have the ability to use him as a flex. He's a borderline RB3 in full PPR, but I think he has a lot of upside. And I would definitely take him off waivers if he's somehow still there. Moving on to Evan Ingram. The only thing I took away from Evan Ingram is that the Jacksonville Jaguars do not trust Travis Etienne, and they really want Trevor Lawrence to display his pass attack, his passing ability. So you're going to see a revolving door of Evan Ingram, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, and even Marvin Jones as fantasy relevant guys week in and week out. And right now, I think I trust Zay Jones the most. I feel like he has shown that he doesn't ever get knocked out of the team, and he's always going to be a part of the offense, more so than the other three options. And then last but not least, let's talk about Jerry Jeudy. As we know, Cortland Sutton was out. Jerry Jeudy capitalized. I think you have to take that for what it is, and it's that he's trusted. He's healthy, and when he's healthy, there's a shot at upside. He's a good route runner. Had an injury history, but he's taken it up a notch, and I think you can trust him at least in the flex play. I would use him if I have nothing else, and especially with coming up this week. Who knows what's gonna happen? There's some solid matchups. I think you have to ride the hot hand with Jerry. My next set of takeaways, I would talk about J.K. Dobbins. I know that he had a hot start in the beginning, and then if you watch his big run that he had, he kind of stutters, and it looks like he tweaked his knee again. I don't know, but I just know that the touches weren't there for him. And if I was somebody with J.K. Dobbins and I saw his score, I would look at his touches and just ask myself, do I want to utilize this guy in the playoffs? And right now, I don't think I do, unless a lot of things trend really well for him in the next week of practice. I do not feel comfortable with him. I don't even feel comfortable with the flex because, like I said, he just vanished all of a sudden. He wasn't utilized anymore. Next on my list, I want to talk about T. Higgins. And T. Higgins, healthy scratch, I guess. He didn't even play. I mean, I don't know why Zach Taylor does that to us. I don't know why he says this guy's going to be healthy and then all of a sudden he just doesn't touch the ball. I would take this as a mental note that if I saw something fishy with the Bengals, I wouldn't even risk it, right? I think outside of Jamar Chase, the only person they haven't done that to, T. Higgins has been in this weird perpetual motion where he comes in, he's supposed to play, and then all of a sudden he doesn't play, and then you're the one that's left holding the bag. So take that as a mental note from at this point on, at this part of the season, as a risk if you're starting T. Higgins. And then last but not least, the 5 p.m. game just ended for us at the West Coast, and I want to talk about what I saw with the Miami Dolphins. I think Tua is right now on a little slump. I think he will rebound. If you have Tyreek Hill, I wouldn't worry, but I think if you were trying to get cute with the other players, I would be a little worried. I wouldn't be starting Trent Sherfield. Jalen Waddle is a possible hit out there still, but I think Tua is currently in the slump, but I would definitely be wary about starting Tua, and I would anyone outside of Tyreek Hill on the Dolphins. But I believe he will eventually get out of this slump, but it's going to take a second. Don't risk your playoffs when we don't know what's going on. Other than that, I got nothing else for you guys, and then best of luck for you guys the first round of your playoffs. If you have a bye, take a nap, enjoy yourself. Let everybody else slaughter each other out. Have a good one. See you for week 16.
Right. So Dennis, what do you think of it? Well, I don't know. Not too crazy about Zay Jones, and I don't like Jerry Jeudy, and I actually like J.K. Dobbins and T. Higgins. He's gonna play. You know, I really think he's gonna play. And, I don't know what he's talking about. And to it, he's not in any slump. He's washed up. Really? You think so? You think so, Dennis? Yeah, I think so. I think that's it. I think I gotta move on from him. Really? Oh, come on, you never said that last week. Now, come on now. I kid now. I shouldn't kid about Dennis. He's feeling under the weather, but I don't want to kid too much. But on the serious note, though, Zay Jones. Yeah, I like Zay Jones. I do like him, but the guy, the hot receiver on that team right now is Evan Ingram, and tight end, I guess. I mean, it's still pass catcher, I guess you'd say. But I like Zay Jones. I like Zay Jones. I don't argue that one.
I mean, Evan Ingram is someone I think that's been like hot off and on, right? He had a really good week this week, a solid tight end week last week, and then like 4 bad weeks straight, right? Yeah. But Zay Jones has been weird. Like, he's just this guy that exists to get you like 7 catches or, an impossible touchdown. He's had a really strong season randomly. I think so in the last 4 games, 8 for 68, 11 for 145, 2 for 16, and then 8 for 77 and a touchdown.
Yeah.
That's been pretty good the last 4 weeks, and he's always kind of a part of the offense. Trevor Lawrence hasn't been an epitome of consistency, so that's always been kind of problematic. But Zay Jones at least gets targets every week.
Yeah, that's true. Another guy, we talked about Jerry Jeudy earlier, and we talked about Dobbins, but I want to go back to T. Higgins go back to him for a second. One thing that really annoys me about him, I had him on the fantasy team, right? One of my fantasy teams, and of course he was, I would really like to know, why can't he at least be announced as a game time decision or something? Because he didn't even get that designation.
Yeah,
that's really annoying to me. That's really, really unfair to fantasy.
No, it's unfair to everybody. Fantasy and real life fans. I would say that's problematic, and I think that deserves a fine, if anything.
Yeah, I do, and I think that's really unfair because he's not playing, and the game's already started, and you had that's like BS. I would have put someone else in. Anyway, can't do it now. I mean, after the game started, you can't do anything. It's just tells you that coaches around the league just don't like your fantasy team, don't like fantasy football.
But I would argue that even from a NFL standard, it misleads your opponent. It makes them game plan incorrectly. And I know that we're not supposed to provide favors to our opponents, but I would say that's misleading if you were to do that. Yeah. And I think if I was an enemy team, you could argue that that's kind of, again, ruins the integrity of the game a little bit.
Yeah, I think it does. But just to keep the show moving here, I want to talk about Tua. You mentioned him also. Bounce back. I'm kind of at a crossroads right now. I don't know whether defense is the film has finally caught up with them, because you find that with new quarterbacks that have suddenly come into the limelight, the microscope goes on them with and film rooms. And I've mentioned this with Dennis, is that I would love to learn how to watch coach film, and because I think they might have figured out something about how to disrupt to a degree, so to speak. And we'll have to wait and see. But I have a little bit of concern. I mean, after the San Francisco, I think San Francisco showed the league defense as something that they'd never looked at before, that they could use against Tua. Because
so if
Justin Herbert stole the show, and Tua was nowhere.
So if you watch the game from last week with the Niners versus the Dolphins threw that game away. The Dolphins actually had every opportunity to win. Tyreek Hill should have had 200 yards. Like Tyreek Hill basically, I was at that game live, and I remember I was able to see the game a lot better. And I was just watching Tyreek Hill just burn his opponents left and right, leaving them in the dust, right?
Yeah.
Jokes aside, if Mahomes was there, that would have been touchdown city. I think Tyreek Hill would have had 230 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was just that crazy.
Yeah, that's one thing about being at games. You can watch routes and stuff without, you can sort of
so much better.
Yeah.
And the problem that I've noticed with Tua, and I think he tried to make up for it this last week versus the week before, his anticipation is really good. But at the same time, it's kind of his downfall. If you ever watch how he throws, especially yesterday, he was throwing where he believed they were going to be, not where they were actually going to be. And you see it quite a bit. It's accurate throws, but I think he's overestimating a lot of the players. And it's problematic, right? Like he thinks they're going to run hard left, but he throws it. But he's adjusting the speed incorrectly or whatever. Yeah. And it's been very problematic. And the same thing for the deep throws. He's overestimating his speed receivers to get such a gap.
Yeah. That's a good point, because I was thinking, what does he think? Who does he think Waddle is? Does he think Waddle is Hill?
Yeah.
So Waddle's good. Don't get me wrong, but he's not Hill.
And he's not putting respect on his opponents, right? He's not giving the respect to his defensive opponents to keep up. And here's the thing. Most of them won't keep up with Hill, but I can argue they'll keep up with Trent Sherfield, Cedric Wilson, Mike Gesicki, and Jalen Waddle. He throws 50-50. He throws balls that Gesicki technically could catch, but it's like, why would you do that? He's not taking the checkdowns. He's not taking the easy routes. You see it a ton, especially lately. You don't see good out routes. You don't see corner routes. You're seeing a lot of posts and slants over the middle and deep shots. You're not seeing drags. You're not seeing flats get taken. That's what Tua was taking a lot last year, and he took a lot of those early in the season. But these last 2 games have been deep shot city. Like it's like watching a man play Madden.
Yeah,
it's all over the middle or all deep shot 1-on-1.
Just like Marino. He wants to be another Marino. He wants to be the Marino of the Dolphins now.
And he's trying to shoot himself out of this slump, and he's playing one giant game of Madden right now. And it's really bad. It's like you can see the tilt in it too. You can see him tilting.
Yeah, he probably plays himself in Madden. Things he can do.
I believe. I've just been really studying the game for this, and I'm just like, man, like what is going on? And I see it like, it's plays that most other guys wouldn't make, which is the opposite of Herbert. Herbert will always take what the defense is giving him.
Yeah, Herbert's good. And you can tell, and the announcers mentioned it also, they can tell, it looks like he's finally really healthy. Because he had that rib issue?
Yeah.
And he's looking good. Next question to you, though. Why do you think he will bounce back, Tua?
I think it's going to come to Mike McDaniels. I think Mike McDaniels is going to sit him down, coach him back up, and say, hey, man, you can make the throws. Just because you can make the throws doesn't mean the defender is going to give it.
Right.
You need to take your flats. You need to take your drag. You need to wait a second to throw the ball. And be more certain. I think that's what's going to end up happening. And the play calling has been kind of bad. I think Mike McDaniel kind of understands that. If he is a offensive, guru, he's going to understand that he's doing too much also. And which is also kind of setting up Tua for failure. Like you're playing all these over the middles and you're not playing to your team's strength. And I think he's caught up with them. I think you can see the cockiness that they had the last 2 weeks. And it's starting to bite them in the butt a little bit.
I'm just taking a look at something here. This might be of some interest to to this situation. And who is the quarterback's coach? Is Darrell Bevel. Darrell Bevel, I've heard that name.
Sounds familiar to me too.
Darrell Bevel. Oh, he's from the he was interim head coach of the Jaguars last year. Darrell Bevel, and he was offensive coordinator of the Jacksonville Jaguars before. He was also interim head coach of the Detroit Lions. So he's the quarterback's coach. So he started off with in the NFL. He started off back as an assistant quarterback's coach. So he's been doing quarterback coaching and offensive coordinator for a long time. Darrell Bevel's been in this league quite a long time. No one have heard that name. But so he's kind of the name that we got to watch. So either he's not doing his job, or I don't know, Tua's not listening to him.
Tua's regressing for sure. If you watch his last year's play versus the beginning of this season and this season, it's getting worse. And this is, I'm not trying to be like, oh yeah, obviously it's worse because he's doing worse. No, it's like the reads aren't the same reads he was making. The anticipation's a little off. He's not taking the checkdowns. He's not leading with his eyes like he used to. It's a lot of little things he isn't doing. That's what made Tua so good early in the season and last year.
Show today is crowded, so we must move quick.
Right. I know. Yeah, we got to get on to the wide receivers that we're picking up in week 15.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be fun.
A lot of the names you've seen before. Do you like the number one Shark?
I think I do. I've never been a Shark guy, but yeah, you have to believe it right now. He's 2 back-to-back good games. Jared Goff, I give him a lot of crap, but he's putting up right now.
Yeah.
I think their matchups are solid too for the rest of playoffs. I mean, that's it. This should be the wide receiver one.
Yeah. What did you think of that? What did you think of that play? You have to, what was it? Penny Sewell? So.
Oh yeah. Penny Sewell. That was fun. I think that's as fun as it gets. And I'm happy for him. I hope that the goal that I think the rumor was Dan Campbell is trying to get Penny Sewell into the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
And I hope that play does it.
Well, he got snubbed last year, apparently.
He got snubbed. And here's to top it off. What I like about it is it's the opposite of what Mike Zimmer did last year for Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson had a shot at a playoff. Sorry, not a playoff. Had a shot at a record. And Mike Zimmer just benched him. And then when they asked him about it, he was like, I don't care about record.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so disrespectful to Justin Jefferson, a guy that put up, possible Hall of Fame numbers already, and then on his second year. But then you get the flip side in the same division where Dan Campbell's like, I want you to get accolades.
Yeah.
I want you to be greater than me kind of situation. And that's why Mike Zimmer is fired. And someone like Dan Campbell is so beloved.
Yeah. They I'm not a big Detroit Lions fan. I never really have been, but I always kind of feel happy when the Lions do well because they've been such,
well, yeah, they're the Browns for us.
Yeah.
We love the Browns. We love the Lions. We want them
we want the lowlifes to show up.
Underdogs.
Yeah, we like the underdogs. But there's also another Detroit name on this list, which interests me, and he scored a touchdown as well. Jameson Williams, he's in his rookie year. I want to go back. Oh, before we get into this, you were talking about getting players into the Pro Bowl and things like that. I kind of feel bad for Garrett Wilson. Because, if Mike White had started the season, maybe he would have been in the conversation for Rookie of the Year, if possible. There's no guarantee we'd get there. He would have at least had a chance for, against Olave, right?
The conversation matters, right? A conversation means you had a chance.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Jameson Williams, this rookie. Scored a touchdown, and he's, Dan Campbell's getting him out there. Not much. The odd man out this week, and it kind of bothered me because it was Amon Ra, really.
Yeah.
Everybody else was doing stuff, and it seemed like, because he's the field stretcher, right? But he was kind of left out in the cold this week.
I think he's a little bit of everything. He's definitely more all around than the other two guys. DJ Shark has always been kind of a deep threat. Jameson Williams has been brought in to be a deep threat.
He's good run after the catch,
Yeah. Not all games can be home runs, and that's okay.
That's true.
He's still got targets. He's still got you 12 overall points with possible upside. I wasn't the biggest Amon Ra guy myself, but I even admitted we should be buying him low a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he paid off. And I think you should be okay with it, given the situation.
Yeah, let's see what Amon Ra did this weekend. He still got the targets, 9 targets, 6 catches, 68 yards. I guess, I don't know. It just didn't look like he had a presence, though.
Yeah, it wasn't the Amon-Ra show that we're used to. It wasn't the, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, 10, 12 catches situation. Mm-hmm. But, you're allowed to have some slightly better games. But here's the thing. I would take 9 targets and 6 catches.
Yeah, I would. 68 yards. I mean, it's just, I guess you get spoiled after 2 100-plus yard games.
2 week winners? Yeah.
Yeah, because he was WR3 and WR2 in the last 2 weeks, and he dropped all the way to this week down to WR32.
I mean, the way I would look at this is, I don't want the running backs on this team. I said that earlier for how...
except Williams.
But Williams didn't do anything last week either. It looks like
I wouldn't call him exactly boom bust, though, would you?
Well, no, but I mean, my point of the matter is...
Let's not get on to running backs. We got to get on with the show.
But you see a trend that they're throwing the ball more for Jared Goff. That's all I want to say. Like, they're throwing the ball more.
Yeah.
And that makes me think you might want Shark, Amon-Ra, and, and possibly Jameson Williams, which whatever is that on. But I that's how I look at it.
Yeah. Where have I got Williams for the rest of the season here? He dropped quite a bit. Wow, Williams. Oh, there, Jamal Williams. There he is. I have him as a RB15 in rest of season. Yeah, he 16 carries, 37 yards. Not very good, but like you say, it was passing, and I guess Minnesota's good against the run.
Status.
Yeah, but Swift. I don't know. Swift. You're kind of right, because Swift is in and mixes in, and you just don't know which way he's up.
It's the ETN situation. You're seeing a little bit less of the run game, or less of the running back interactions. I guess that's the best way to say it.
Yep. Let's move on with this list here. We got some names here. Elijah Moore. Not so sure about him.
I love it. I feel bad for Corey Davis. We popped him a lot last week, and he actually was on pace to be relevant. He was one of the first guys to catch passes on this game.
Yeah.
Head injury though.
Yeah.
Didn't they say concussion? They said head injury. That's insane. So sucks. Corey Davis may not come back for a few weeks. I think Elijah Moore with Mike White is in the boat for the second wide receiver you should be adding.
Yeah, no, maybe, yeah, because I kind of forgot about the Corey Davis situation. So you're right there. Actually, I stand corrected.
I'm doing my job a little bit.
Yeah, here's a name that interests me though. I'm interested in Chris Moore of the Houston Texans.
I am too. Oh my God, I costed myself a playoff spot because I saw that Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins was out. And then I said to myself, who's next? It's Chris Moore. And then I said, but I'd rather have Trent Sherfield with Tua because that seems more explosive. And I should have taken the vacated targets.
You know what stopped you? You know what stopped you? The Dallas defense, I bet.
Yeah, it probably did. But I would rather have the wide receiver 1 on that, and rather than a wide receiver 3 on a team that runs a 2-receiver set most of the time.
Right.
And I shot myself in the foot when I could have played Chris.
All right, but he's sitting at WR6, so I've kind of skipped over a couple of Colts. And you're not big a fan of the Colts right now. I know that. And I'm not. Not but Alec Pierce is okay-ish. But I mean, if it was the middle of the season, if it wasn't fantasy playoffs, I'd say okay, yeah, Alec Pierce, Paris Campbell, sure, But now that the Colts are out of it, again, here you got this thing when you got a team that's out of it. What are they going to do? Are they going to start giving snaps to the guys at the rough end of the trench?
I think you like Campbell. I don't think you can like Pierce. Pierce doesn't play the short intermediate routes as much as Campbell does, and I think if you're playing in a PPR league, you have to want Campbell more because he's going to get 9 for 82. Or 9 for 65 or something that's super scrawny on the list. But you want those free checkdowns. Pierce has been very boom bust. Very, very boom bust.
Yeah, I kind of put him in the category of Scotty Miller, sort of one of those guys, A
little bit better than Scotty Miller. I would say who is the person on our list right now? Devontae Parker. Kind of a Isaiah McKenzie.
Yeah.
Every 3 games you might get 40 yards on a touchdown, right? Like Van Jefferson kind of situation.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair call.
Speaking of McKenzie, he's on the list at WR7. Always like him. You've got to have a piece of the Bills' offense. I'm surprised he's on this list because under 50% owned, it's a crime. He should be picked up. He should be owned.
I would 1,000% want him right now over Gabe Davis, given the way Josh Allen's been playing. I think when Josh Allen starts to get a little bit healthier, obviously Gabe Davis is going to be the guy that you want to be 17 for the finals, because Bengals versus Bills is probably going to be the most exciting thing we've seen in a while. But right now,
Davis is due a game. I even put it in the blurb view. I thought, be aware that Gabe Davis is due a game.
Yeah.
A big game. And I mean, even
point.
Stephon Diggs didn't know. What did Diggs do? Diggs is always good.
He didn't do a lot. And that's props to the Jets. That Jets defense is, everyone.
Yeah, they're legit.
49ers are, but the Jets are up there too.
Wow. Diggs, WR54.
It's painful. I had him this week in one of my co-managed leagues, and we were like kind of sad that Diggs didn't give us Diggs numbers.
I didn't think he did that bad. Wow, 5 fantasy points, PPR. Yeek. 37 yards, eh?
And part of it comes down to Josh Allen. He's in this slump, man. He's playing hurt likely. He's making bad decisions. It's been tough. It's been tough to like Josh Allen's game right now. I know Bills fans are going to come after us, but it's not been great. Not the guy that you thought it was.
No, the Bills are kind of, I don't know, it seems like they're just scraping to the finish line here. They've got to step up if they want to go anywhere in the real football playoffs.
Yeah, they also probably need to give Josh Allen a break. They probably need to give him a week off at some time in frame before playoffs kick, because they're most likely not going to get the bye. So they need to they need to sacrifice like week 18. The minute they seal playoffs, they need to just bench him, because he can't go out there right now. He shouldn't be going out there right now.
A couple of other names that we don't like. We don't like Robert Woods, and we don't like Kadarius Toney.
We don't like Kadarius. Robert Woods had a good game technically, though. Or he had a good Robert Woods game, I guess. I like Van Jefferson. I like Van Jefferson.
I do too.
And
Even though
I like Tutu Atwell.
And I like Tutu. Yeah, you like Tutu Atwell?
A little bit.
I like him. I like him. Playmakers, they both are. I would even put Skoranek on here, because it seems like, it seemed like he was the kind of the go-to guy on that magical drive of Mayfield's. But again, these guys are dependent on Mayfield, and when you depend on Mayfield, well, we got to wait and see what happens at Lambeau. I'm just not. I can see why these guys are at the bottom of the list. They're being cautious. The Fantasy Pros guys are being cautious about these players. But
I will say this much: they're not giving enough credit to Sean McVay. They need to give him more credit.
Yeah.
Whether they're losing, whether how bad it is, or how ugly this team is, I think Sean McVay will find a way to ink out a little bit of football fun, right?
Yeah.
He did this with 3 quarterbacks this year, right? It's been bad, but I think Tutu Atwell, Skondrick, and Van Jeff have random potential to be somewhat fantasy relevant. Like Tutu Atwell had 5 catches, 50 yards last week. Skondrick had 7 for 80, and Van Jefferson had about 5 targets, 1 catch that could have been caught. He could have had 3 for 70 and a touchdown, 2 for 44 and a touchdown, but it could have been 3 for 70. So, I think you can add these guys to just wait and see. I would rather have them more than Alec Pierce.
I have to admit, I did start Van Jefferson and Scott Fish.
There we go.
Yeah, it turned out all right, but for 59 minutes and 50 seconds of that game,
it was pain.
It was pain.
It was full pain. I get it.
It was pain.
But that's been Van Jefferson's game his entire career. He's a 2-and-done guy.
I suppose, and I think sometimes receivers do better when the big receiver is out there. Like, if Kupp was out there, I think he sort of elevates the other receivers. Like, that's not totally true, because when you look at Allen Robinson when he was still playing, he's all. That's another thing that's going to be a discussion in the off season. What are we doing about Allen Robinson? I don't think he's a value pickup when he's going to be down the list. He's going to be a down lister, but I don't see the value. I'm looking at a guy like Robert Woods now. Like when I look at Allen Robinson now, I'm looking at Robert Woods almost.
Yeah, I would rather look at all those guys before I look at Robert Woods.
Yeah.
I would rather look at the 2 Rams guys over Robert Woods, over Devontae Parker.
Yeah, definitely.
Over Isaiah McKenzie. Definitely over Tony. Like, I don't know. They put up. It's something, and they're the only guys on the team. So that's, to me, is relevancy.
It's a problem because it's so late in the season, and it's just you can't. This is the playoffs, and you can't stash. That's what sucks. You can't stash and see. You know, like there's just no time. I mean, you're either picking them up, and you're either picking them up to play them, or what are you doing? Yeah. You know, this is the time of if you've got a DST league when you're trying to stack up DSTs and things like that, and getting handcuffs for your running backs and this sort of. It's not the time for stashing players. I wish it was, because there's a lot of good prospects out there if the season was longer. But 18 weeks is all we get. And that's it. Let's move on to the tight ends. A short list of tight ends. Chigozie Okonkwo, I think.
Yeah, he has to be up there. I think at this point he does.
Yeah. Player I still like, even though he didn't have a very good game, is Daniel Bellinger.
I like Bellinger. Funny enough, I took a prop bet on him to hit over 2.5 reception, and it hit.
Definitely a DFS. Definitely a DFS guy. Yeah, sure.
A prop get guy. He's super underrated right now. He's coming back from eye surgery. I talked about him a lot last week. I think he's, to me, ahead of every tight end here, besides Okonkwo.
Yeah.
I think Austin Hooper is not holding his job. Taysom Hill is probably the only other guy I would consider because he's such a toss-up. But Conklin has been a hit and a miss, and Bellinger, he's getting targets.
That's right. And that's always the thing that you look at when it comes to fantasy football, is the targets.
Yeah.
But again, here we are we're at the crossroads of, fantasy playoffs, and we can't stash and see guys. If you're picking up guys, you're picking them up to play them. You're not picking them up to stash and see, So we can't do spec ads at this time of the year, right? Which is the part of fantasy football I like the most, is the spec ad phase. But as you approach the playoffs and in the playoffs, you can't really, trying to get in playoffs and things like that. So it's kind of. Anything else to add? So let's take a look at who we like and who we are going to grab off the waiver wire. Next week we'll probably do an abbreviated version of the waiver rankings. So waiver rankings sort of kind of when it gets to this part of the season, waivers aren't as important. Well, they're important if you're still in it. But anyway, quarterback. Who's your number one?
It's got to be. I want to say Mike White, but I'm kind of leaning Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy gets.
I'm Purdy as well. Yeah, Brock Purdy at QB3. I put him up QB1. I completely agree with that. There. Yep. Running back on the list. You can go off list if you want to.
I'm going with. I want to say Chuba Hubbard, and I feel weird doing that. I want the guy that's going to get receptions and some touches. Gus Edwards is a close second for me, a very close second. But I don't know what his situation is. He didn't get a lot of love last week. Maybe he's still battling injuries. So I want to get the guy that got touches, got receptions, and was using the end zone. He's a dual threat.
I'm going to go with Zamir White as my number one. For the reasons I suggested, is that if they do decide to shelve Josh Jacobs, since the Raiders basically bumbled and stumbled their way out of the with letting Baker Mayfield, come on, they let Baker Mayfield take over the game, and if they decide to shelve or reduce it, I don't know. I guess there is that thing like you were talking about, records and things like that. Josh Jacobs is in the rushing title, so maybe that's not. But on the possibility, I mean, if he's dinged up and if he's hurt and if there's a possibility of him getting even more injured, well, you don't want to. Why take a chance with 4 games left in the season? So we might be seeing Zamir White might come into it. So this is sort of a mini stash in a way. So he's my number. Wide receiver, who you got?
It's going to be Shark. It's got to be Shark. I will always admit when I'm wrong, and I think Jared Goff is kind of putting up. And you got me on this last week with Jared Goff possibly elevating this offense. And Shark was a guy I was looking at too, but yeah, they're doing well. I think they got momentum on their side, and sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go with. I think I cannot leave Isaiah McKenzie on the I can't.
The waivers?
You just can't. Just can't leave him on waivers. He's got to be picked up. You've got to have. They're a decent offense. He shouldn't be there. He should be over 50% owned, and he's not. And if he's available, which in all likelihood in most leagues that are serious, he'd be gone. So
I could see him being unrostered in small benches, right? There's a lot of small bench leagues that are becoming more popular. It's like I've seen like 4 bench leagues, which is like really fun because then you get to play with the waiver a lot. So I could see him in that.
Right, and finally, tight end. I'll do mine first. Daniel Bellinger at TE5. I'm going to put him as my number 1, ahead of Chigo Okonkwo, only for the reason that Tennessee is not. It's the Derrick Henry. It's supposed to be Derrick Henry, and kudos to the Jaguars for shutting him down in the second half. That's not easy. So
definitely not. Especially when they had the history of getting shredded by Derrick Henry too.
Exactly. I think they didn't want that to happen again, and so they did a good job, and Doug Peterson did a great job sorting all that out, because Derrick Henry, he's probably a Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah, likely. I think he might have something against him, is that the fact that he didn't play a lot his first 3 years or first 2 years.
That wasn't his fault. That really wasn't his fault.
But when you look at the grand numbers, it sometimes hurts. Like, especially how the Hall of Fame is these days.
I don't think Vrabel was the coach back then.
But at the same time, people are not going to look at that 10 years from now. They're going to be looking at what is his total numbers, how many records did he set, or did he do anything different than anybody else? And that's why I said it's a little shameful for Justin Jefferson that he won't have this record under his belt. You need a lot these days to be a Hall of Famer. I think more so than it's been in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of guys that they're going to have a hard time.
There's a lot of good players that aren't in the Hall of Fame. I'll grant you that. Exactly. I was reading about some players. Oh goodness sakes, he's not in the Hall. Yeah. Guys from way back. So, anyways, that's the show. That's the show. We got good luck on your fantasy playoffs for those of you who are still playing. But we're gonna start feeling Christmas pretty soon. So and Dennis will be back, and hopefully we get your Christmas picks, Davis, and we always look forward to the Pengs picks. So you do have your involvement in this show. And we might even have at the end of the season all 3 of us hammering out the season and giving out awards for this and that.
We did last year that I really enjoyed was the where we thought people were going to go next year. And I actually re-listened to that recently, and that was really fun. And I think we actually got some parts correct. Where we thought a whole season in advance where we thought people were going to win.
That might be an idea. Get the free agent list to see who's up for free agency this season.
I meant draft wise. I think we were talking about where certain guys are going to go.
Oh, I see. Right. I thought you were talking about the. All right. Okay. Was that what we did last year? All right. Well, maybe. Okay. Well, we're always open to ideas for this show. That sounds good.
Alrighty,
I like it. Good. Okay. Be sure to check out Davis. Davis, you're writing. I forget what you're doing now. You're doing
I was doing the trade articles. I'm actually doing the week 16 and 17 waiver wire this year because our current writer Herms is moving on to Draft Sharks, and I will be taking over week 16 and 17 waiver rankings, who you should be going for, and then I do best ball, and I am playoffs started, and I am one of the higher people in advancement.
Awesome. Be sure to check out the Blurb View and the rest of season rankings. The rest of season ranking comes out Thursday and Friday night. The Blurb View, which covers your weekend and gets you all set. Even if you're not into fantasy, you can still, if you're out of your playoffs, it's even a good read for, if I might say so myself. That it's a good read for the weekend games. You get all the betting angles and like that. So be sure to check that out, Blurb View. So thanks for joining us on the Fantasy Edge. Good luck with your first week of the playoffs. See you next week, everybody.
All right.